In Seijo Setagaya City, Tokyo metropolis, lies a luxurious manor where 7 beautiful siblings reside, with their servants tending to their every need. At the dining table, Arata and Shion discuss matters of the heart. Arata struggles to ask out a girl he likes, while Shion can't understand the problem. Coming from a wealthy and influential family, Shion believes Arata should have no trouble attracting any girl he desires. Their conversation is soon interrupted when the rest of their siblings arrive. Huka is the first to complain, clearly annoyed at such a gloomy topic first thing in the morning. Huka accuses the two of speaking inappropriately about Shion's girlfriend, but Shion quickly diverts the conversation by teasing Oka about her developing figure. Embarrassed and irritated, Huka calls her dog, Velzakil, on Arata, letting him take the punishment. The other sisters watch with amusement, playfully accusing Arata of being a pervert even towards them. Arata tries to defend himself, but Seiha brings up a mysterious incident involving Kotono, making things even more awkward. Kotono remains quiet, though an uneasy expression flashes across her face. Banri then steps in to lightly scold Arata. Huka shifts the blame toward Banri, saying it's her fault for spoiling Arata too much. Banri casually shrugs it off, remarking that his behavior probably stems from being constantly surrounded by beautiful girls, referring to themselves, of course. Seiha sharply disagrees, pointing out that incest is neither normal nor socially acceptable. Minami tries to soften the mood, saying she believes Arata is a good person. Encouraged, Arata moves in for a grateful hug, but Minami swiftly punches him, blaming her reaction on the fighting game she had been playing recently. The siblings then tease Arata, claiming he's wasting his good genes because of his terrible personality. Despite this, they remind their brothers about the outing they all agreed to have on Saturday. Kotomo appears slightly concerned that Arata might not make it, but he reassures her that he'll be there. Later, at the train station on their way to school, some students spot the 5 sisters chatting together. Their beauty doesn't go unnoticed. Rumors say each sister even has her own fan club. The 2 brothers standing nearby also draw attention. Girls swoon over their looks while boys envy Arata's muscular build. At school, Arata and Shion take a quick detour to the restroom. There, Arata confides that it feels strange when people openly say they envy how the siblings live together. According to him, outsiders have no idea what it's really like. Living with 5 sisters means everything and everyone is biased in their favor. More often than not, he and Shion end up on the losing side of every argument. Shion often reflects on how people outside their family have a completely skewed idea of what it's like living with 5 beautiful sisters. To outsiders, it must seem like a dream, almost like living in a real-life harem. He knows that's far from the truth, but he can't deny that each of his sisters possesses qualities that make them immensely popular. Banri, the eldest at 18, is a model student enrolled in a prestigious university. Seiha, the second eldest, is known for her brilliance and calm composure. Boka stands out with her energetic and competitive spirit. Minami, the 4th sister, is widely regarded as a prodigy. And then there's Kotono, the quietest of the siblings. To Arata, though, these so-called charms are nothing special. They're just his sisters. He's never seen them the way others do. But despite his indifference, Shion is quick to remind him of the recent incident with Kotono, a memory that still lingers in Arata's mind. Kotono had confessed her feelings to him, and although Arata had rejected her immediately, citing their sibling relationship, the moment left a mark on both of them. While lost in thought, Arata spots a familiar figure passing by the window. It's the girl he likes. Her presence instantly shifts his focus. Shion, noticing the change in his demeanor, seems to recall yet another failed attempt by Arata to confess, deepening his frustration. Later that evening, Arata lies in bed, scrolling through the girl's social media page. His thumb hovers over the Add Friend button. The fear of rejection and Shion's earlier remarks weigh heavily on him, and in the end, he decides against sending the request. Huka interrupts his thoughts, barging into his room to borrow his notes. While flipping through his notebook, she expresses genuine surprise at how neat and well-organized his handwriting is. Arata, however, becomes distracted by her outfit, more revealing than usual, and can't help but notice. Huka brushes it off casually as the two have shared a close bond since childhood, especially as twins. During their interaction, Huka suddenly remembers Arata's crush. Her curiosity piqued, she presses him until he finally, albeit reluctantly, admits that he has feelings for Rara from the student council. Excited by the revelation, Huka pulls out her phone, ready to play matchmaker. Before she can act, Arata stops her, insisting on handling it himself. Offended by his refusal of help, Huka leaves his room in a huff, tossing a few sarcastic remarks his way as she slams the door behind her. Elsewhere in the house, Kotono sits on her bed, grasping a family photo. Her gaze lingers on Arata's image, her expression unreadable. One quiet afternoon, as school ends, Arata walks alone, deep in thought, as he wonders what life might have been like if he weren't a part of the Shianji family. If he were someone else's son, maybe things would have been simpler, less chaotic, less emotionally tangled. As he walks further ahead on his usual path home, he spots Rara, the girl he secretly likes, running up to another guy. She's smiling brightly, her expression glowing with excitement. The sight stings more than you expect. At that moment, Arata realizes he's probably missed his chance. At home, he sits in his room, already dressed neatly for the evening. Tonight is Kotono's birthday, and the family is hosting a quiet celebration. As the clock ticks closer to 7 p.m., Arata waits before deciding it's safe to leave the solitude of his room. Stepping into the hallway, he's immediately met by Oka, who looks stunning in her dress. As he walks into the dining room with the others, Arata's thoughts remain tangled. He fixates on fate, how it seems fixed, inescapable. No matter how much he struggles, things just don't change. The silence is broken when Oka suddenly starts scolding Minami for losing one of her AirPods. Minami shrugs off the criticism and promises to find it tomorrow, but Oka has already launched into a full rant about responsibility and how Minami focuses too much on sports. The tone quickly escalates and tension fills the room. Annoyed, Arata raises his voice, snapping at them both. He reminds everyone that they're family and shouldn't waste time on petty arguments. Seiga steps in to back him up, urging everyone to settle down, especially since their father is due to arrive any minute. Almost on cue, Kaname enters the room, his usual cheerful demeanor intact. He greets his children warmly and takes his seat at the head of the table. As everyone settles down, Banri lifts her glass, about to begin a toast for Kotono's birthday, until their father interrupts. Kaname asks for everyone's attention and reveals something that rocks the very foundation of their lives. None of them, he says, are biologically related, except for Shion and Minami, who are actual twins. The room goes still. Arata and Uka stare at each other, confusion and disbelief etched into their faces. For years, they believed they were twins, close in age, raised as a pair. Kaname explains that he and his wife Chihiro had always planned to tell the truth once Kotono turned 15. He apologizes for the secrecy and promises never to lie to them again. He encourages everyone to enjoy dinner as planned, as though the revelation hasn't shattered their reality. As the appetizers arrive, the siblings sit in stunned silence. Each one processes the news differently. After the meal, the siblings regroup in the living room over tea. The siblings are amazed that Minami still managed to eat normally, while the rest of them struggle to even enjoy the meal. Luka voices her irritation at the timing of their father's announcement, calling it inappropriate. Seiha argues otherwise, saying that delaying it further would only make things worse. Minami tries to lighten the mood, playfully encouraging Oka to relax. Seiha then turns to Banri, hoping she might remember something from the time Kotono joined the family. Since Banri was 4 then, she has the best chance of recalling early memories. But Banri nervously denies knowing anything, making the siblings suspicious. Seeing that everyone is disappointed by her silence, Banri finally speaks up. She explains that even if she did notice anything strange back then, it hardly matters now. They spent their entire lives growing up together, laughing, arguing, sharing memories, so it's impossible for her to see any of them as anything other than siblings. Family isn't always defined by blood, she says. Almost everyone seems satisfied with her answer, and they quietly agree to call it a night. As the siblings retreat to their bedrooms, Uka notices Arata lingering in the break room, staring ahead with a troubled look on his face. Eventually, Arata returns to his room and lies down on his bed, but his thoughts remain restless. The revelation still loops in his head. Banri's words echo. Nothing changes, they're still a family. He agrees it's the only way to keep things from falling apart. Still, he's reminded of Rara, of seeing her with another guy earlier. The sting of regret and rejection makes him want to forget the day entirely. Hoping to clear his mind, he decides a bath might help. As Arata steps into the bathroom, he notices a bra inside the hamper. He sighs in frustration, wondering if his life is starting to resemble some bizarre harem anime. Shaking the thought from his mind, he proceeds into the bathing area, only to freeze. Kotono is already in the tub. Stunned, he quickly turns and starts to leave, only to hear Kotono softly call for him. She asks him to help wash her back, her tone calm and innocent. Fully dressed, Arata kneels beside the tub and gently scrubs her back, all while quietly scolding her for still needing this kind of help. Kotono simply smiles and admits that she finds comfort in feeling his strength. It reminds her of how safe she feels when he's around. Once finished, Arata gives her a brief reminder on proper bathing etiquette and how she needs to warm up properly. When he hears Kotono agree with him, he turns to leave the bathroom. Elsewhere in the house, Uka sits alone in the dining area, sipping tea in silence. Shion soon finds her and joins her, sensing her mood. She admits she feels bad. Today was supposed to be a celebration for Kotono, yet it was overshadowed by something so heavy. She also confesses her concern for Arata, especially since they were raised as twins. That shared identity, that bond, feels fragile now. Shion reassures her. Arata may seem shaken, but he's confident that their brother will carry on as he always has, dutiful, protective, and reliable. He even admits he's somewhat relieved that he and Minami are still true siblings, real twins. But then, a darker thought crosses his mind. He wonders what will happen if this information reaches the public. How will it affect their family's reputation and their public image? He also wonders if this opens the door for sibling marriage. Back in the bathroom, just as Arata is about to head out, Kotono surprises him, rushing up from behind and wrapping her arms around him in a silent, intimate embrace. Arata is frozen in shock as Kotono suddenly stands and wraps her arms around him from behind. Meanwhile, in the dining room, Uka is bewildered. The idea of romantic relationships between siblings, real or not, strikes her as absurd. She finds it hard to believe anyone in their family would consider something like that. Yet her mind can't shake the memory of Arata's recent stares, the way his eyes seem to linger a little longer on his sisters than before. Her thoughts spiral further. She suddenly remembers the incident between Arata and Kotono, the one she witnessed where Arata had pinned Kotono to the floor. She never knew the full story, only what it looked like at first glance. Now curious, she presses Shiyun for the truth. Shiyun hesitates, clearly unsure if it's the right thing to share. But seeing Uka's serious expression, he finally relents. He tells her that Kotono had confessed her feelings to Arata that day. The scene Uka witnessed happened because Kotono had lunged forward to hug him and Arata, caught off guard, tried to stop her. They ended up falling to the floor. Uka rubs her temples in disbelief. It sounds ridiculous, but she knows Kotono well enough to believe it. Kotono has always been unpredictable and emotionally intense. That sort of impulsive behavior fits her. Still, there worries both Uka and Shiyun. Now that Kotono knows they aren't blood relatives, there's a possibility she may pursue a relationship with Arata. Back in the bathroom, Kotono clutches Arata tighter and tries to confess again. Her voice trembles as she explains her feelings. She doesn't understand why he keeps rejecting her. If they're not truly related, then there should no longer be an issue. She fears that others will see her as strange or wrong, but her love for Arata feels too overwhelming to ignore. Moved by the sincerity in her voice, Arata gently turns around to face her. He reassures her that she's not a bad person, but suggests she might be confusing her emotions, especially at her age. Puberty can twist feelings into something they're not. He reminds her that even if they aren't blood siblings, they were raised as family, and he sees it as his responsibility to protect her, not to return her feelings. He promises to be there for her until she finds someone to love and eventually marry. Heartbroken by another rejection, Kotono nods and quietly returns to the tub. Arata gives her a soft, happy birthday before stepping out. As he tries to sneak back to his room, unaware that one of his sisters has been nearby, Banri then enters her father's study, ready to confront him about their family. Arata makes his way to his room and breathes a sigh of relief. He wonders what pushed Kotono to confess again. The timing can't be a coincidence. Surely the news of their adoption gave her the confidence to act on her feelings. As he opens his door, he finds Seiha already sitting on his bed looking unimpressed. She asks where he's been and he casually lies, saying he just went for a walk around the estate. But Seiha doesn't buy it. Instead of pushing the topic, she makes a comment about his room, the smallest among the siblings. But tonight, she says, it feels oddly spacious. They both remember how they all once played rock, paper, scissors to decide who got which room. Luca had dominated every round and claimed the largest space, while he come in last place, landing him in his current room. Arata watches Seiha carefully, waiting for her to explain her presence in his room, but she says nothing. Instead, she casually explores his space. Without any warning, she pushes him backward onto his bed and climbs on top of him. His body tenses immediately, his thoughts spiraling as she presses her ear gently to his chest. His mind races. The possibility that Seiha might be acting on something deeper, like Kotono had, is unsettling. Ever since their father's revelation, nothing feels certain anymore. But then she shifts away. There's no flirtation in her expression, only something close to scientific interest. She appears relieved, as if she had been testing something and found the result within acceptable limits. Seiha reveals that she overheard and witnessed Kotono and Arata in the bathroom earlier. Arata shoves her off comically, still overwhelmed by the absurdity of everything. Seiha, however, remains composed. She appears to be reasoning out the dynamics now that the truth about their family ties has changed. To her, the emotional confusion of the others, especially Kotono, seems understandable. What once would have been impossible is now within the realm of possibility. She explains casually how societal and legal norms are structured, not around social perception but biological concerns. In her view, the barrier that once existed is gone, and it would be hypocritical to pretend otherwise. She seems to test Arata, watching his reaction carefully, gauging his boundaries. Though she reassures him that she has no interest in him romantically, she can't say the same for her sisters and acknowledges the possibility of them coming onto him eventually. Then she stands and heads to the door. Her movements are deliberate. Before leaving, she reminds him of their roles as siblings. She is older than him. She wants to be addressed with respect or be given a cuter nickname than simply being called by her first name. As the door closes, Arata collapses on his bed, overwhelmed and unable to organize his thoughts. Everything feels too loud in his head. The revelation, Kotomono's actions, Seiha's strange emotional logic. It's all too much. Outside his room, Seiha pauses. She looks down at her palm, clenched slightly as if reassuring herself that everything she feels is natural. She stands there for a moment before Minami notices her. Seiha retreats silently to her own room. Morning arrives. Arata hasn't slept a minute. The weight of yesterday's revelations lingers in his body. He prepares for school and finally steps into the hallway. There he stops in his tracks. Bamri gestures toward her outfit proudly, excited about her internship and her new uniform. She reveals she gave her spare for Kotono to try and is curious to know what he thinks. Arata deflects Bamri's question with a vague answer, hoping to avoid any awkward explanation. Bamri assumes his reaction is a sign of disapproval. Her expression drops and she clings to Kotono, seeking comfort in her younger sister's arms. Arata watches her and makes an attempt to reassure her that her new uniform is nice, but also reminds her of the time. The school day is about to begin. Just like that, she begins tugging at the nurse uniform Kotono is wearing, trying to help her change quickly. The high school-aged siblings walk together towards school, the girls naturally forming their own little group ahead, while Arata and Shiyun lag behind. As they pass by clusters of students, a few nearby boys murmur with obvious admiration, their eyes trailing the girls. His gaze lingers for a moment on the group ahead. Despite everything that happened, the girls appear unbothered, their usual energy and confidence intact. Shiyun appears to reflect on this, silently wondering what would happen if their family's secret became public knowledge. Arata, however, quickly tells him to lower his voice, clearly not wanting rumors to begin. The day unfolds without any disruptions. Classes run smoothly. No one mentions the previous night's announcement. Yet when Arata bends to retrieve his shoes, a heaviness settles over him again. Despite his outward calm, the emotional weight refuses to lift. Kotono had made her feelings known and Seiha had shown unusual vulnerability. There must be something stirring beneath the surface. Minami appears beside him, apparently done for the day due to canceled club activities. He watches her for a moment. Among all of them, Minami seems the least affected. Always energetic, always cheerful. Arata merely shakes his head and continues walking toward the school's exit. Minami keeps pace with him, the conversation light as he offers vague praise for her athletic achievements. As they step out of the building, they are suddenly surrounded. A group of girls rushes toward them, though their attention is completely focused on Minami. They huddle around her, excitedly asking for photos, complimenting her appearance and buzzing with admiration. Arata stands just outside the circle, entirely ignored. Once the group disperses, he finally processes the situation. He hadn't realized just how popular Minami had become. She explains that a photo of her in a male school uniform had recently gone viral, earning her a cult following of sorts. Arata can't help but feel a little downcast. He wonders how Minami can attract so much attention without trying while he struggles to get the attention of his own crush. He pushes the thought aside and shifts his focus, asking her about her plans now that she's free for the afternoon. Minami finally admits with a nervous laugh that the reason she had no club activities today was because she failed her recent aptitude exam. As a result, the school placed her on academic probation, requiring her to skip club until her grades improved. Despite her usual cheerful exterior, it's clear the news weighs heavily on her. Seeing how disappointed she is, Arata offers to tutor her for the afternoon. Instead of heading home, they make a detour to a nearby karaoke place and rent a private room. The booth offers a sense of freedom and isolation, a place to focus without too many distractions. At least that's the plan. They start strong with Arata walking Minami through the review sheets and quizzes. However, her attention quickly strays, especially when the karaoke songbook catches her eye. After a while, he quizzes her on what they've gone through. To his surprise and frustration, she manages to get nearly every answer wrong. Suddenly, the karaoke machine begins playing one of Minami's favorite songs. Without hesitation, she jumps up and grabs the mic, already halfway through the intro before he can protest. Arata wants to stop her, but he pauses when he hears the lyrics. The song humorously details a girl who only wants to play tennis and avoid studying altogether. It's so fitting to their current situation that he bursts into laughter. In that moment, he gives up on tutoring for the day. Watching Minami sing with all her energy, he chooses instead to enjoy the moment. After the session, they head toward the counter to settle their bill. As they reach the front, Arata spots Lala with her boyfriend in the lobby. His posture stiffens immediately, and he ducks away. Minami catches on quickly and glances toward the couple. Putting the pieces together, she realizes Lala must be the girl Arata had been in love with. As they walk home together under the setting sun, Minami expresses gratitude for the day, something to balance out the emotional weight of yesterday's revelation. She then confesses her growing curiosity about her biological parents and mentions wanting to ask their father about them someday. Her tone shifts slightly as she jokes about how Errata is technically no longer her brother, but her upperclassman instead. The teasing stings a little, but her sincerity soon follows. She reassures him that their 15-year bond can't be erased by bloodlines. That connection is real, regardless of names or technicalities. She briefly brings up Lala again, urging Errata not to feel bad, even if Lala already has someone else. When Errata questions how she found out about that, Minami easily explains that Uka gossiped about it earlier. To cheer him up, she starts listing his good traits, noting how dependable, athletic, and caring he is. Then, playfully, she pats him on the head and calls him senpai instead of big brother. When they arrive home, Minami heads straight for Uka and hands her a box of mini cakes, along with a pair of missing AirPods she had borrowed and forgotten to return. She apologizes sheepishly for the delay. To her surprise, Uka shrugs off the apology, tells her to keep the AirPods, and invites her to share the cakes together, an unspoken truce that softens the air between them. Errata starts his morning with the same routine he follows every day, going through the motions with a quiet familiarity. As he steps out of the bathroom, he catches sight of Kotono already dressed for school. She stiffens when she sees him, gives a quick, almost forced good morning, and hurries downstairs. He pauses in the hallway, watching her disappear around the corner. The awkwardness hangs heavy in the air, and he wonders if Kotono has finally come to terms with what he said in the bathroom a few nights ago. Maybe she understands that despite the truth about their adoption, things can't and shouldn't change between them. Or maybe she's just trying to avoid him. Either way, the shift unsettles him. Before he can think much more, Seiha appears by the corner and catches him in his daze. She asks if it's normal for adolescent boys to daydream so often. Errata greets her, but she quickly interrupts and insists that he add Chan to the end of her name. He hesitates, but realizing she won't let the issue go, he gives in. Please, Seiha immediately drops into a more casual tone. She brings up Kotono's behavior, noting that the tension between them hasn't gone away yet. Errata doesn't have time to respond before Minami bursts in, energy radiating off her like a sunbeam. She calls him senpai again, clearly enjoying the nickname. Seiha raises a brow, questioning the choice of honorific, saying it's usually reserved for someone mature and respectable. Errata groans to himself as the girls head downstairs, wondering why his mornings are always filled with so much chaos. At school, Errata catches a glimpse of Lala at the lockers, chatting and laughing with a friend. As she walks off to class, he finds himself watching her go. His thoughts are interrupted when Uka suddenly appears behind him. She wastes no time teasing him and encourages him to confess to Lala. Errata shuts her down quickly, reminding her that Lala already has a boyfriend. Uka is visibly surprised by the revelation, admitting she hadn't heard anything about it. However, Uka quickly leaves him to join her group of friends. Their excitement spikes when she mentions her upcoming trip to the sea park for Kotono's birthday. From a distance, Errata observes her, reflecting on how effortlessly she blends into her social circle. He almost envies how naturally she attracts attention. A part of him wants to reveal her bratty side to the world, but he knows better. Crossing Uka would only make things worse for him. Some of Uka's friends eventually notice Errata nearby. They comment on how different his vibe is from Shiyun's, but still agree he's attractive. A few even whisper about wanting to date him. Embarrassed, Uka tries to list his annoying habits, but halfway through, she realizes she's accidentally praising him. Her ears turn red. Flustered, she rushes her friends off toward the classroom, mumbling something about the hallway being too hot. Finally, the weekend arrives and the family heads to the sea park. Uka is practically bouncing with excitement, taking in all the attractions with wide-eyed wonder. The With Me mascot strolls past them, and both she and Minami immediately rush over, laughing and playing with the costume character. Soon after, Minami's stomach growls, prompting Banri and Errata to volunteer to get food. They return a few minutes later, each carrying a tray of snacks, only to find the spot where their siblings were waiting now completely empty. Taking a seat on a nearby bench to rest and place the trays of food down, Errata pulls out his phone and begins calling each of his siblings. One by one, the calls go unanswered. Banri, noticing the lack of response, casually suggests that they enjoy the theme park together for now by going on a date, reasoning that they're bound to run into the others eventually. With the food already in front of them and no one else around to share it with, Errata ends up eating most of it himself. By the time they resume walking, he feels bloated and sluggish, regretting his decision. Banri walks beside him, noticeably more affectionate than usual. Despite being the eldest among the siblings, her demeanor borders on flirtatious, her arm looping around his, her body pressed against his side without a care in the world. Errata, flustered by her sudden clinginess, tries to create space between them, muttering that they should be acting like a couple. Banri, however, casually brushes it off, reasoning that to outsiders, they probably don't even look like siblings. His mind drifts back to the sensation of her chest pressing against his elbow, a thought that lingers far too long in his head. Eventually, Banri catches on to his reaction and teases him lightly, causing Errata even more embarrassment. He manages to put a bit of distance between them as they continue walking. Banri, ever confident in her appearance, remarks how lucky he is to have such a beautiful older sister. Arata notices a few men giving Banri appreciative glances as they pass by, and he can't deny that she draws attention. She's well aware of it too and carries herself with the ease of someone used to being admired. Without warning, Banri turns back and whispers something outrageous to him, offering to let him touch her chest once they're home. She quickly adds that she's only joking, but the damage is already done. Arata is left red-faced and rattled. They head toward one of the park's main attractions, a large roller coaster. Banri climbs up the stairs ahead while Arata follows a few steps behind. As she ascends, her skirt shifts with each movement, forcing Arata to avert his gaze. In his distraction, he trips and lands face first on the steps, making him feel embarrassed for falling in public. Banri, unfazed, helps him up and they continue on to board the ride. While Banri enjoys every twist and turn of the roller coaster, Arata becomes pale and shaken. He tries calling their siblings again with no luck. Finally, Shiyun sees the missed calls and sends a quick message before picking up his phone. Arata informs him of their location in the nature zone, prompting the rest of the group to realize they've gone in the complete opposite direction. Hook suspects what might have caused the separation, and Kotono, noticeably quiet, seems uneasy. The group agrees that the rest of the day should be spent focusing on Kotono, especially since the outing was meant to celebrate her birthday. Even without Arata and Banri, they decide to continue making the most of the day together. With that decision made, the rest of the siblings head toward the space coaster, an attraction Kotono has been wanting to ride since they arrived. The group agrees it's only right to prioritize her wishes for the remainder of the day. Meanwhile, Banri and Arata are resting at the far end of the park, seated on a shaded bench where many food stalls are lined up. Despite several attempts, there's still no word from the others. Banri eventually starts to feel hungry again and pulls a churro. She offers to split it with Arata, but he declines, still feeling queasy from having eaten too much earlier when they were waiting. As Arata watches Banri happily eat the churro, a quiet thought crosses his mind. He suspects that, like him, she must be affected by the recent news about their adoption. Curious, he cautiously brings it up. Banri pauses, then admits she was surprised at first, but doesn't want to let it weigh her down. She shares that, at some point, she plans to speak to their father and slowly ask about the details of their adoption, when the time feels right. She then shifts the conversation, sensing something in Arata's tone. He's been noticeably more withdrawn lately, and she worries about how he's coping. Arata doesn't mention what happened with Kotono or Seiha, but he does admit that the news left him uneasy. The fear that their bond as siblings might shift in strange, uncomfortable ways has been lingering in his mind every day. Banri notices his troubled expression and, without thinking, reaches out to pat his head in a comforting gesture. A memory comes to her, a time when Arata used to run to her crying after Uka picked on him. She had always been his safe place. Embarrassed, Arata quickly pushes her hand away, prompting Banri to sit back. She tells him sincerely that no matter what changes or revelations come their way, she'll always worry about him and the rest of their siblings. To her, they're a real family, one she protects at all costs. Hearing this, Arata is overcome with a sense of appreciation. He remembers how Banri had always looked out for him, especially when the others were harsh. That part of her had never changed, and it is what makes her his beloved older sister. As they prepare to get up and leave, a small girl running nearby suddenly stumbles. The two tall drinks she's holding slip from her tray, launching their contents toward Banri. Acting on instinct, Arata steps in front of her, taking the full brunt of the spill. The girl looks horrified and apologizes profusely. Arata waves it off, offering a friendly smile to reassure her. Banri looks him over, inspecting the soda stains on his clothes and grumbling that even washing them might not save the fabric. Then, without warning, Arata quietly declares that from now on, he'll protect her too. After all, that's what a younger brother is supposed to do for his older sister. The girl and her mother eventually bid Banri and Arata goodbye. Right at that moment, their siblings finally catch up with them, all of them wide-eyed at the sight of Arata, completely soaked from head to toe. Despite their curiosity, no one pushes for more answers, and they decide it's better to enjoy the rest of the park now that they're all together again. The group begins heading toward another attraction, chatting and laughing along the way. Arata and Banri naturally lag a little behind the others, walking at a slower pace. As they trail behind, Banri suddenly reaches for Arata's hand and takes it in hers. She gives a small smile and says that it's fine. After all, she's his older sister. As night falls, the amusement park transforms into something magical. The vibrant lights flicker to life, casting the entire area in a warm, dreamlike glow. Uka, clearly enjoying the scene, playfully pretends to be a princess, with Minami quickly volunteering to be her loyal prince. Arata soon feels the urge to use the restroom, and Shiyun offers to tag along. Kotono announces she'll join them too, saying she also needs a quick bathroom break. The three of them step away from the group, walking toward the nearby facilities. With the three gone, Seiha suddenly takes the opportunity to share something she's been holding in for a while. In a quiet voice, she recounts what she witnessed a few nights ago, an encounter between Arata and Kotono in the bathroom. Her revelation stuns the others, leaving Banri, Uka, and Minami in shock and concern. Seiha quickly reassures them, explaining that Arata had clearly rejected Kotono. In fact, she adds that she herself had tried to test him with a similar scenario to see if his heart might change, and thankfully, there was no change in his pace. Uka stares at her, stunned that Seiha went to such strange lengths to confirm Arata's feelings. Seiha insists it was necessary. She just wants to know how they should proceed, especially since Kotono's feelings don't seem to be going away anytime soon. They agree not to confront Kotono directly. Most of them still hope it's just a passing phase. However, Uka reveals that the incident in the bathroom wasn't Kotono's first attempt to confess. She reminds them of the time they caught Kotono and Arata alone in the game room. That had been her first confession. Banri begins to worry more deeply, her earlier hopes starting to waver. But she still wants to believe Kotono will eventually move on. Seiya challenges this, suggesting that Kotono's feelings might only grow stronger now that they all know they aren't blood-related. After a pause, Banri admits that she spoke with their father about their backgrounds. It turns out all of them are orphans adopted at different points. In Banri's case, there's no information at all about who her biological parents might be. She tells them not to do anything drastic for now. Arata is doing his best to reject Kotono, so it's best they simply keep a close eye on things and step in only if necessary. Just as the conversation ends, Arata, Shion, and Kotono return. The rest of the group quickly pretends they were just looking at the park map to choose the next ride. As the evening winds down and they finish the remaining attractions, they all head to the souvenir shop before making their way out. Minami and Seiha are determined to buy the With Me mascot doll, eager to add it to their rooms. Arata hangs back a little, choosing to walk a few steps behind the group. He observes Kotono and notices that she is back to her usual self. He thinks back to her birthday and how the news shocked all of them. He is sure that even their dad might be harboring worry that they would no longer act like siblings. But after today, he is sure that he can tell his father that they are still the same family. At a distance, fireworks go off and all of them look towards the sky in awe. When they reach the shop, the others eagerly browse, except for Arata, who lingers near the entrance. He freezes for a moment when he spots a girl who looks strikingly like Lala walking by. Uka notices and steps outside to join him. They begin walking quietly. Uka teases him for having such boring hobbies, even joking that now that they're not really twins. Arata firmly says he'll always see her as his twin, but Uka tells him he'll need to start facing the truth eventually. Still, she admits it was fun being twins with him. Everyone believed it, especially since they were always in sync, even guessing each other's rock-paper-scissors moves. Then, without warning, Uka looks ahead and quietly confesses that she likes him.